Hi and welcome. In this video we are going to see how to connect our PowerShell to the command line compiler from Visual Studio. So the first thing to double check is that you have your Visual Studio installed, and I'm going to click and open it just to make sure two things. With this new community version of Visual Studio, they don't install the compilers to start with. So you have to make sure you have those installed. So just go ahead and double check that. And once we make sure that is working, we will go through the steps to get this connected. Okay, once Visual Studio starts, we're going to look for New Project over here, and we're going to click on New Project. And what we're looking for is the window that pops up after the templates. And we're looking for not Visual C#, we're looking for Visual C++. And we're looking in the Win32 that we have the Win32 console application. If you see something that looks like Install Visual C++ Tools, go ahead and click that and just follow the installation. Once you've done that, you should be ready to go, and you'll have more what I have with the Win32 console application. That's what we're looking for. So as long as you have the Win32 console application, you should be ready to go. So once you see that, you can just hit cancel and close Visual Studio, and we won't need Visual Studio for a little while. Okay, assuming you're using Visual Studio 2015, then we should be just about ready to go. Okay, so what I want you to do is start PowerShell. If we type CL, which is the shortcut for the compiler, we'll see an error message. Should. And we do. So we see that CL is not a recognized name of a commandlet. So that means it doesn't know where the compiler is, and that's fine. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get our file browser open. And I have one open here, and we're going to go to our documents. So in documents, we need to make a directory. So right here, we're going to make a directory. We're going to make a new folder or directory by right-clicking and saying New Folder. This folder must be named Windows PowerShell, and it has to be in the documents. That's where it has to be. Okay, we're going to go into that directory, and we're going to put a special file there. So let me grab that file. I've got it over here on my Google Drive. Okay, in this Windows PowerShell directory, we need to put a file that has the name Microsoft.PowerShell_profile.ps1. If I right click on it, you can see that we can run it with PowerShell. I'm going to edit with Notepad++, and this should be the contents. What this is going to allow us to do is when we start PowerShell, it's going to execute this file, which is going to look in our Visual Studio directory for a batch file called vcvarsolve.bat, and that will set up the Visual Studio environment that we need to use. So all we really need to do, I've got it on my desktop, is I'm just going to drag this into the documents, into the Windows PowerShell directory. And that should be all we need to do to get that working. So now I'm going to type exit in the Windows PowerShell window, and then I'm going to start PowerShell again. And this time we get a message about unable to run this script because it's been disabled, and that's fine. If we type get execution policy, we're going to see that it's restricted, and that's what we want to see. So now we're going to type exit, and we're going to right click on Windows PowerShell and run it as administrator. When we do this, it's going to want our password. Go ahead and put that in. And now we notice, if you look at the directory, we're in a different directory. So now we can set the execution policy to be remote signed. It's going to ask us if we want to do this. I'm going to say yes, and that's all I need to do. I'm going to type exit. I'm going to start PowerShell one more time. This time I don't get the message about not being able to run the commandlet, and if I type CL now, I now get a message saying that the compiler is looking for an input file. So this is what we want to see. If you get to this point, this is where you want to be, and this is where things should be working. So I can type exit and close that. If something isn't working correctly and you're not sure what it is, a couple easy things to check. One thing you want to check is that this does not have a TXT extension on it. If you look at this icon, you notice that it isn't a text file. If I right-click on it and get the properties, you'll see that it has a type file of Windows PowerShell script. If yours has a text extension, then it's got the wrong extension on it. You can rename it, open it up in Notepad++ and save it as just a PS1 file. There's a couple things you can do there. You can rename it a couple different ways. If it is a PS1 file, the next thing you want to check is what's here in this path. So if I go back to my file browser and I basically try to find this path, so it's going to be in C:program file. So if I go down here to my C drive, my program files, notice there's two of them. We want to go into the one that's listed there as x86, and I should have a Visual Studio 14. I also have a Visual Studio 12 directory. But this is the 14 is the most recent one, and I should have a VC directory, and then in there's that file it's trying to run. So if you don't have this directory structure under your Microsoft Visual Studio 14, assuming you're running 2015 edition, then something's not correct, and you can look to see if you have another version like I do. And here, notice in my Visual Studio 20 or Visual Studio 12, the only thing I have is Common 7. So if you have a directory and it's empty like that, then you should have another one that's got all of the other tools in it that you're looking for. So that's the directory you want to find. And notice there are spaces in here and quotes. And a weird thing is that Visual Studio 2015 is actually the 14th edition, which is why it says 14. So that's a couple easy things you can try to see if you can get it working. If you can't get it working, let me know. I can help you. It's not terribly difficult. I've done it a bunch of times. But once you have that CL white error message showing up, that's the message you want, and you're ready to start compiling. All right, that's it.